Hey yo, what's going on? We're out here at the beach, just chilling, kind of freezing because it's pretty cold, but enjoying the view, enjoying the birds, enjoying the wind, enjoying the waves, enjoying this life, baby! So what did I want to talk to you guys about today? Today, I wanted to talk to you about how to not take things personally. Oof. I know every single one of us struggles with taking things personally. And we probably do it every single day. So how do we take things personally? How does that happen? That happens when we accept other people's sufferings as our own. Ooh. You see, when you understand that how people treat you is a direct reflection of how they feel about themselves and not you, you become impervious to any kind of harm, whether physical or emotional, from other people. You see, when a water bottle is filled with water, what's the only thing that can come out? Water, right? When a person is filled with happiness, what's the only thing that comes out? Happiness. When a person suffers inside and is full of suffering, what's the only thing that comes out? Suffering. And unfortunately, it's usually directed onto us. Right? So the first step in not taking things personally is understanding how the other person feels and putting yourself in their shoes. The hard part comes when we have to constantly remind ourselves this, because we're constantly being attacked, especially verbally. In today's cruel world, unfortunately, we're always being attacked or targeted or called rude names or said rude remarks about, right? The hard part comes when every single time this happens, you have to bring yourself into awareness, take a step back and realize, wait a second, is what they're telling me, is that true? Is that really how I feel about myself? Most of the time, the answer is no, right? Most of the time, you don't truly feel like you're a piece of shit if that's what they called you, right? They might make you feel that way, but by yourself, on your own, do you feel that way about yourself? Maybe you might. Hopefully not. It's a process, and it doesn't happen overnight. And it won't happen after watching this video. And it won't happen after the first time that you decide to forgive somebody for treating you bad. Nah, it's not gonna happen, because, see, we're so used to taking things personally. We're so used to being on the defensive, right? That's all the ego does, is defend itself, defend the self. Somebody calls you ugly, your physical ugly, or your ego thinks, fuck you, I'm not ugly, I'm beautiful, right? And then there's a struggle. If somebody calls you ugly and there's no ego there, all you're gonna do is just sit there and smile or laugh or not do anything, because there's no ego there to defend. Your soul, your energy, your light, it never take things personally. It's always happy. It's always content. It's always shining. Well, somebody leaves a plate in the dishwasher or in the sink, and your mom says, she starts screaming, she goes berserk. Who the hell left this in the... And your first reaction is, well, it wasn't me. I don't know why you're screaming at me, blah, 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 right? Whoa, all of a sudden, your ego's hurt. because you know you wouldn't leave that dish there, but all of a sudden you're getting accused. So what do? You take a step back. You realize, wow, my mom is really throwing a fit over a plate in the sink. She probably had a bad day. Dad probably pissed her off. Somebody cut her off on the way home. She's salty, and she's only throwing that salt on me. But you don't want the salt, okay? You don't want that, right? So you take a step back, you analyze the situation, you understand where she's coming from, you bring awareness into yourself, you recognize that you didn't leave the plate there, and then that reaction that seemed almost instinctual to argue back, now it makes no sense, right? Why argue back? Why take it personally? You know you would never leave a plate there. And if it was you just go wash it, right? And just say, then you look at your mom with a smile on your face like, yo, you good? Like, that's it? That's all you were tripping about, right? And you can apply this to anything. Because there's more people out there that are going to treat you like shit than are going to treat you nice and make you feel happy, right? Because most people these days feel like shit about themselves and the world around them. Unfortunately, that's the kind of world that we live in. But thankfully, you no longer have to be part of that world. You no longer have to take things personally. You no longer have to suffer as the consequence of other people's actions. Because if you live your life and you base your happiness on other people's actions, then I got bad news, because you're going to be miserable for the rest of your life. Because you can never control what other people do. You can't control what they say. You can't control what they do. You can't control how they act. What you can control is how you choose to perceive, how you choose to react, how you choose to move forward with whatever it is that you're dealt. Whether it's bad words or good words. It's all up to you. How people treat you is a direct reflection of how they feel about themselves. It's not about how they feel about you. You've never seen a person that's happy, that respects themselves and others. You've never seen them treating people bad. It doesn't happen. The water bottle full of water can't pour out whiskey. The human full of life and happiness can't pour out suffering. Right? The human full of suffering can pour out suffering, and usually it pours. It's a waterfall. It's a torrential downpour. It comes out all at once, all that suffering. So you gotta understand. You have to understand every single time that you are accused, or that you are belittled, or that your name called, or that someone points out a flaw in you. It's hard, but you have to understand every single time. And once you do this enough, once you take a step back every single time, it becomes a little easier. At first, it's gonna bother you, and it's gonna suck, and it's gonna hurt, and you're gonna wanna retaliate, and you're gonna wanna call him a fucking bitch. But then, the second time, it's not so hard. The third time, it's not so hard. The fourth, fifth, sixth time, it's not so hard. By the 100th, by the 1000th time that you've taken a step back, brought yourself into awareness, and therefore understanding, and recognize, hey, how this person is treating me has nothing to do with me. It's none of my business. He feels that way, that's his problem. It's not ruining my day. It's not ruining how I feel about myself. It gets easier and easier and easier to the point where nothing bothers you because you're so secure of how you feel about yourself that there's nothing that anyone can absolutely say that's gonna make a difference in how you feel about yourself. And it's a process, and it takes a long time, and it's not gonna happen after watching this video. It's not gonna happen after the first time that you try it. It's not gonna happen after the 10th time that you try it. But it will happen. Remember, we're unlearning things that we've been taught our whole lives. We're unlearning reactions that we've been susceptible to since birth. Unless your parents had some sort of awareness as well, which more often than not, unfortunately, they don't. You see, these neural pathways, these reaction chains, they're very well cemented in your brain, but that doesn't mean that new ones can't be created. You see, there's a word called neuroplasticity. Neuro for neurons, brain related, plasticity, ability to be shaped. The brain can essentially reshape itself. You can retrain your brain to follow new pathways. So when somebody treats you bad, when somebody tells you to fuck off, the current pathway is defensive mode, react, say something back, right? For example, you can train your brain to not take that path. You have the ability to reshape your brain. It's the craziest fucking thing. It's the only organ that we're able to reshape. Isn't that crazy? Can you imagine how powerful our thoughts are, that they have the ability to rewire your entire brain? You don't believe me? Just look it up. Neuroplasticity. It's a relatively new subject in neuroscience, but it's real. Our mind can reshape our brain. It's amazing. It's incredible. It truly shows the power that we all hold inside to create whatever it is that we want, including a new brain. Because you see, most people's way of thinking is, oh, I was born this way. Oh, I've always been this way. Oh, yeah, there's nothing I can do to change that about myself. And it's absolutely false. There's absolutely everything that you can do to change yourself. There's absolutely everything you can do to not follow the patterns or habits that have potentially brought you to a place in life that you don't want to be in anymore. You have the power to create your reality and your thoughts and your brain. You can do it. It's all your head. It's all your head, really. You don't have to be the same person that you were 5 years ago just because that's just the way you are. Nah. If I was the same person that I was, or if I left my habits and my behaviors to nature, then I probably wouldn't be here talking to you guys. Who knows what the fuck I'd be doing, right? Probably not something good. Probably not something for the better of humanity. But, and I don't mean to talk too much about myself, but there came a point in my life where I decided, hey, I don't want to live this way anymore. I don't want to be prisoner to my thoughts. I control my thoughts. My thoughts don't control me. I am the operator of my brain. My brain doesn't operate me. There has to be a distinction. You are not your brain. You are not your thoughts. You're not your thoughts. You're not your thoughts. Now this went on a whole complete different tangent. And if you've made it this far, great for you. and I hope you got a little something out of it. To be honest, I don't know where I took it. I just kind of just flowed with it. But again, just to recap, how people treat you is not about how they feel about you. Remember that. It has nothing to do with how they feel about you. When someone treats you bad, they're really telling you, hey, I feel bad about myself. They're not saying, they don't really mean what they're telling you. They don't really mean whatsoever they're calling you. Nah, essentially that's how they feel about themselves. And it's almost sad, you know? When you recognize this, you can almost feel bad for them. And, you know, pity's not the greatest thing, but it almost makes you pity them and think, wow, it must suck to be them. Because I feel great about myself, and I would never make somebody feel the way you just made me feel, right? Right? So think about that every single time. You have to remind yourself every single time. Create those new pathways in your brain. Create them. Create them. Redirect your thoughts. Focus your thoughts. And eventually, you remold your brain. You reshape your brain. You use it, and it doesn't use you. Peace.